Danny Carter worked the night shift at a small salvage yard in the Nevada desert. He had been doing this job for 3 years now. Nothing exciting ever happened after midnight. Sometimes a drunk driver would crash through the fence. Sometimes coyotes would set off the alarms. But mostly, the nights were quiet and boring. Danny was 32 years old. He lived alone in a small trailer next to the salvage yard. He had no wife, no girlfriend, and no family nearby. His parents had died in a car accident when he was 25. He had a younger sister named Lucy who lived in Texas, but they only talked on holidays. Danny was a simple man who liked simple things. He fixed cars during the day and watched the stars at night. On this particular night, Danny was sitting outside his trailer with a cup of coffee. The sky was clear and full of stars. He was thinking about nothing in particular when he saw something strange. A bright light appeared in the sky. At first, he thought it was a shooting star, but it was too big and too bright. It was getting closer. The light turned into a fireball. It screamed across the sky like an angry comet. Danny dropped his coffee and watched with wide eyes as the fireball crashed into the desert about half a mile from where he stood. The ground shook under his feet. A wave of heat washed over his face. For a long moment, Danny just stood there. His brain was trying to understand what had just happened. A meteor? A satellite? Some kind of military experiment? He should call someone. The police. The military. Anyone with authority. But Danny did not call anyone. Instead, he grabbed his flashlight and got into his old pickup truck. He drove toward the crash site. He did not know why. Something was pulling him forward. Something he could not explain. When he reached the crash site, Danny stopped the truck and stared. The sand around the impact point had turned to glass. It was smooth and shiny, reflecting the starlight like a dark mirror. In the center of this glass circle was something that made Danny's heart stop. It was not a meteor. It was not a satellite. It was a ship. The ship was unlike anything Danny had ever seen. It was sleek and smooth, with curves that seemed almost organic. The hull shimmered with colors that Danny could not name. They were not colors from any rainbow he knew. They seemed to shift and change as he looked at them. Danny got out of his truck and walked slowly toward the ship. His flashlight beam trembled in his shaking hands. He knew he should be afraid. He knew he should run away and call for help. But he kept walking. That was when he saw her. She was lying in the sand near the ship. At first glance, she looked like a woman, a very beautiful woman. But as Danny got closer, he realized she was not human. Her skin was pale silver, almost glowing in the darkness. Her hair was long and spread around her head like a halo. It was deep violet, the color of a bruise. Her features were delicate and sharp at the same time. Her ears were slightly pointed. Her fingers were long and thin, and she was bleeding. The blood was gold, bright, shimmering gold, like liquid metal. It was pooling beneath her body, spreading across the glass sand. There was too much of it. Far too much. Danny fell to his knees beside her. He did not think about what he was doing. He did not consider that she was an alien, that he had no idea what he was dealing with, that touching her could be dangerous. He just saw someone dying, and he wanted to help. He pressed his hands against the wound in her side. It was a deep gash, probably from the crash. The golden blood was hot against his palms. He pressed harder, trying to stop the bleeding the way he would for any injured person. The moment his skin touched hers, something happened. Light exploded from the point of contact. It was bright and warm, like standing in front of an open furnace. Danny felt something move inside him. It was not painful, but it was deep. It felt like exhaling a breath he did not know he was holding. Something flowed out of him and into her. The woman's eyes flew open. Her eyes were amber, bright and burning like fire. They locked onto Danny's face with an intensity that made him want to look away, but he could not. He was frozen in place, his hands still pressed against her wound. Under his palms, something impossible was happening. The wound was closing. The flesh was knitting itself back together, slowly at first, then faster and faster. The golden blood stopped flowing. The gash became a scar, and then the scar faded to nothing. Danny pulled his hands away and fell backward onto the glass sand. He was breathing hard. His heart was pounding in his chest. His hands were shaking so badly he could not control them. The woman sat up slowly. She looked down at her body, at the place where the wound had been. Her silver fingers traced the smooth, unmarked skin. Her amber eyes widened with something that looked like shock. She looked at Danny. She studied him for a long moment, taking in his dirty jeans, his oil-stained t-shirt, his rough and calloused hands. He looked like exactly what he was, a simple mechanic from a small salvage yard in the middle of nowhere. When she spoke, her voice was like nothing Danny had ever heard. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. It sounded like wind chimes in a storm, like music from another world. "Human," she said, "what have you done?" Danny swallowed hard. His mouth was dry. His voice came out as a croak. "I have absolutely no idea." The woman rose to her feet with a grace that seemed impossible. She was tall, taller than Danny by several inches. She looked down at him with those burning amber eyes, and Danny felt very small and very afraid. "You healed me," she said. It was not a question. "I was dying. My wounds were fatal. I had accepted death. And then you touched me, and I was whole again." Danny stood up on shaking legs. I saw you were hurt. I tried to stop the bleeding. I did not do anything special." "Nothing special?" The woman tilted her head, studying him like he was a puzzle she could not solve. "In 10,000 years, I have never seen anything like what you just did. No one in my species has. You did something that should be impossible." Danny did not know what to say. He looked at his hands. They looked the same as always. Rough, dirty, ordinary. There was nothing special about them, but he could still feel it. That warmth that had flowed out of him. That sense of something leaving his body and entering hers. Whatever it had happened, it was real. He had not imagined it. "Who are you?" Danny asked. "What are you?" The woman looked up at the stars. Her expression was sad and tired, like someone who had been running for a very long time. "My name is Vera," she said, "and I am very far from home." Danny brought Vera back to his garage. He did not know what else to do with her. He could not leave her in the desert. He could not take her to a hospital. So he brought her to the only place he knew, his small, messy workshop filled with car parts and tools. Vera sat on his workbench like she owned the place. She looked around at the old engines, the rusty tools, the calendars on the walls. She studied everything with curious eyes, like a scientist examining a primitive culture. Danny sat on an overturned bucket and opened a warm beer. His hands were still shaking. He needed something to calm his nerves. "So," he said, "are you going to tell me what you are? Where you come from?" Vera turned her amber eyes to him. "I am a Draconi. My people have ruled 1,000 star systems for 10,000 years. We are one of the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy." Danny took a long drink of his beer. "Draconi? Like dragons? Your ancestors saw us once, long ago, when we visited this world, thousands of years before your civilization began. They remembered us as best they could. They called us dragons because they had no other word for what we were. So you breathe fire?" For the first time, Vera smiled. Her teeth were very sharp. "I command plasma. It is not the same thing, but I understand why you would be confused." Danny nodded slowly. "Right, plasma. Sure, that makes perfect sense." He finished his beer and reached for another. "And why are you here?" On Earth, I mean, did you come to study us? Invade us? Vera's smile faded. Her expression became sad and tired again. I came here to hide. Hide? From what? From my own people. Danny stopped drinking. He looked at Vera with new eyes. She did not look like someone who needed to hide. She looked powerful and proud. But there was something in her eyes, something deep and painful, that told him she was telling the truth. The Draconi are dying, Vera said. Her voice was quiet now, almost a whisper. We have been dying for centuries. Our birth rates have fallen. Our lifespans have shortened. Our powers have weakened. Every generation is smaller and weaker than the one before. Why? What is causing it? We exhausted ourselves. Vera looked down at her hands. 10,000 years of expansion. 10,000 years of war. 10,000 years of using our psychic powers to build our empire. We burned too bright for too long, and now there is nothing left. We are like a fire that has consumed all its fuel. Danny did not know what to say. He had never thought about aliens before tonight. He had never imagined that the species that ruled 1,000 star systems could be dying. There is a faction within our empire, Vera continued. They call themselves the Ascendancy. They believe that our time has passed. They believe we should accept our fate with dignity, retreat to our homeworld, fade into extinction quietly, without fighting or struggling. And you do not agree with them? No. Vera's eyes flashed with anger. I believe in survival. I believe we should fight for life, not surrender to death. I believe we should seek new solutions, explore new possibilities, adapt and evolve instead of giving up. That sounds reasonable to me. The Ascendancy does not think so. They call me a heretic, a troublemaker, a dangerous fool who refuses to accept reality. Vera's hands clenched into fists. They have been hunting me for 30 years. They want to silence me before I can spread my ideas to others. Danny set down his beer. The pieces were starting to come together in his mind. They shot you down. Your own people shot you down. Yes, they tracked me across the galaxy. They caught up to me in your solar system. I barely escaped with my life. Vera touched her side, where the wound had been. I thought I would die in that crash. I was ready for it. And then you came. Danny looked at his hands again. I still do not understand what I did. I just touched you. I do not understand it either. Vera slid off the workbench and walked toward him. In 10,000 years, no one has ever healed a Draconi the way you healed me. We do not heal quickly. Our bodies are fragile. Our strength lies in our minds, our technology, our ancient knowledge. Not in our flesh. Maybe it was a fluke, a one-time thing. Perhaps, but I do not think so. Vera stopped in front of him and looked down at his hands. There is something about you, Danny Carter. Something I cannot explain. You are just a simple human. You have no psychic power. You have no special training. You are ordinary in every way that I can detect. And yet, you did something impossible. Danny felt uncomfortable under her gaze. He had never been special in his life. He had always been average. Average grades in school. Average skills at his job. Average in every way that mattered. The idea that he had some kind of power did not fit with anything he knew about himself. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed on the workbench. He picked it up and looked at the screen. His stomach dropped. It was a news alert. Unidentified aircraft crash detected in Nevada desert. Military personnel responding. Witnesses report strange lights. Area being sealed off. We need to go, Danny said. Right now. Vera's eyes narrowed. The Ascendancy? No, something worse. The military. Danny grabbed his keys and headed for the door. If they find you, they will lock you up in some secret lab somewhere. They will study you like a specimen. I have seen enough movies to know how this goes. Vera followed him to his truck. Where will we go? I do not know. East. Away from here. We will figure it out on the way. Danny started the engine and pulled out of the yard. Right now, we just need to run. They drove into the night, leaving the crash site and the approaching military behind them. Danny did not know where they were going or what they would do when they got there. He only knew that his quiet, ordinary life was over. And somehow, despite everything, he did not mind. Vera sat in the passenger seat and watched the desert pass by. Her silver skin glowed faintly in the darkness. Her amber eyes reflected the stars above. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for helping me." "You did not have to." Danny shrugged. "I saw someone in trouble. What was I supposed to do? Just leave you there?" Many would have. Many would have called the authorities and walked away. Many would have been too afraid to even approach. Well, I am not very smart. I tend to do things without thinking them through. Vera smiled again. This time, her smile was warmer, less frightening. Perhaps that is a good thing. Perhaps that is exactly what makes you special. Danny did not feel special. He felt tired and confused and scared. But as he drove through the night with an alien dragon lady in his passenger seat, he also felt something else. He felt alive. More alive than he had felt in years. Whatever was coming next, he was ready for it. They drove through the night for hours. Danny stayed on back roads and avoided highways. He knew the military would be looking for anything unusual, and a beat-up truck driving away from a crash site at 3 in the morning was definitely unusual. Vera was quiet for most of the drive. She stared out the window at the passing desert, her amber eyes reflecting the moonlight. Danny could not tell what she was thinking. Her alien face was hard to read. "They will find us eventually," Vera said finally. "The ascendancy. They do not give up easily." Danny glanced at her. "I thought you were worried about the military." "Your military is a minor concern. They are primitive, slow, easy to avoid." Vera's voice was calm, but there was fear underneath it. "The ascendancy is different. They have been hunting me for 30 years across 1,000 star systems. They are patient. They are skilled. And they never stop." "Great. That is just great." Danny gripped the steering wheel tighter. "So we are running from super advanced alien hunters. Any advice on how to deal with that?" "We cannot deal with them. We can only delay them." Vera turned to look at him. "Danny, I want you to understand something. The ascendancy will kill you if they find you. Not because you are a threat to them, but because you help me. Because you know about me. They do not leave witnesses." Danny felt a cold knot form in his stomach. He had known this was dangerous, but hearing it spoken out loud made it more real. "Then we make sure they do not find us." "That is not possible. They will track the energy signature from when you healed me. It was bright enough to be detected from orbit. They probably already know where we are." As if on cue, lights appeared in the rearview mirror. They were not car headlights. They were too high off the ground, too bright, too steady. They moved in formation like a flock of birds. And they were getting closer fast. "Speak of the devil," Danny muttered. Vera's eyes began to glow brighter. Golden light flickered around her hands. "I can fight them. I'm not as strong as I once was, but I can buy you time to escape." "No." Danny pressed the accelerator to the floor. The old truck groaned and rattled, but it responded. "We run together or we fight together. I am not leaving you behind. You barely know me. I know you did not deserve to die in that crash. That is enough for me." The lights were closer now. Danny could see the shapes behind them, sleek, dark craft that made no sound. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, like predators gliding through the night. Danny turned off the road and headed into the open desert. The truck bounced and shook over the rough ground, but Danny did not slow down. He knew this area. He had explored it as a teenager, back when he used to ride dirt bikes with his friends on weekends. Where are we going? Vera grabbed the dashboard to steady herself. There is an old copper mine about 2 miles from here. It has been abandoned for decades. The tunnels go deep into the mountain. Danny swerved around a boulder. If we can get inside, they will have to follow us on foot. That gives us a chance. A small chance. Better than no chance. The mine appeared ahead of them, a dark gash in the side of a rocky hill. The old entrance was surrounded by rusted equipment and warning signs. Danny stopped the truck and jumped out. Vera was right behind him. They ran toward the mine entrance. Danny could hear the Ascendancy craft landing behind them. He could hear footsteps, fast and precise, pursuing them across the rocky ground. The tunnel swallowed them whole. Darkness closed in, broken only by Danny's flashlight. The air was stale and cold. The walls dripped with moisture. Every sound echoed and multiplied until it seemed like the whole mountain was alive. "I cannot see," Vera said. Her glowing eyes helped, but the darkness was too deep. "Stay close to me. I know these tunnels." Danny grabbed her hand and pulled her forward. "I used to explore them when I was a kid. My friends and I thought we were adventurers." "You explored unstable mine tunnels for fun?" "We were not very smart kids." They moved deeper into the mountain. Danny navigated by memory, turning left at one junction, right at another, ducking under collapsed beams and stepping over piles of rubble. Behind them, he could hear the Ascendancy hunters entering the mine. "They are faster than us," Vera whispered. "We cannot outrun them." "I'm not trying to outrun them." Danny stopped at a particular spot and pressed his hand against the wall. His fingers found what he was looking for, a rotted support beam, weakened by decades of moisture and neglect. "I am trying to slow them down." He pushed hard. The beam cracked and gave way. The tunnel behind them collapsed with a roar of falling rock and billowing dust. Vera pulled Danny away just before a chunk of ceiling crashed down where he had been standing. When the dust settled, they were alone. The collapse had sealed off the tunnel completely. "That will not hold them for long," Vera said. "I know, but it gives us time." Danny kept moving, leading her deeper into the mine. "There is another exit on the other side of the mountain. We can get out there and disappear before they dig through." They walked in silence for several minutes. The only sounds were their footsteps and their breathing. Danny's flashlight beam wavered as his hand shook with exhaustion and fear. "You are remarkable," Vera said suddenly. Danny almost laughed. "I am really not. You are. I have met warriors and leaders and scholars from 100 different species. I have seen courage in many forms. But I have never met anyone who would risk their life for a stranger, the way you are risking yours for me. Maybe I am just stupid? No, you are brave. There's a difference." Vera squeezed his hand. "The Draconi have a word for people like you. We call them Starhearts. It means someone whose spirit burns so bright that it lights the way for others." Danny did not know what to say to that. He had never thought of himself as brave. He had always been ordinary, average, forgettable. But here he was, running through abandoned mine tunnels with an alien princess. Trying to outrun hunters from another world, thought maybe ordinary people could do extraordinary things. Maybe it was not about being special. Maybe it was just about showing up and doing what needed to be done. They emerged from the mine on the other side of the mountain just as dawn was breaking. The sky was turning pink and gold, painting the desert in soft colors. Danny took a deep breath of fresh air and felt something loosen in his chest. They had made it. "For now, what do we do now?" Vera asked. She looked exhausted. Her silver skin had lost some of its glow. Danny looked at the sunrise. He thought about his old life, the salvage yard, the lonely nights, the endless routine. That life was gone now. There was no going back. Now we stop running, he said. Now we figure out how to fight back. Vera looked at him with surprise. Against the Ascendancy? Against an empire that spans 1,000 stars? Why not? We have nothing to lose. Danny smiled grimly. Besides, you said the Draconi are dying because they gave up. You said they accepted extinction instead of fighting for survival. Well, I am not Draconi. I am human. And humans do not know how to give up. For a long moment, Vera just stared at him. Then she smiled, and this time her smile reached her eyes. Perhaps that is exactly what we need, she said. Someone who does not know when to quit. They started walking toward the distant town. Two unlikely allies against impossible odds. And somehow, despite everything, Danny felt hope. They walked for 2 hours before reaching the small town. It was called Dusty Springs, and it lived up to its name. A few dozen buildings clustered around a single main street. A gas station, a diner, a motel with a flickering sign. The kind of place that people passed through but never stayed. Danny found a payphone outside the gas station and called his sister Lucy in Texas. He did not tell her everything. He just said he was in trouble and needed to disappear for a while. Lucy did not ask questions. She wired money to the Western Union office down the street. You have people who will help you without asking questions, Vera observed. That is rare. Lucy and I grew up together. We look out for each other. Danny picked up the money and headed toward the motel. Family is important. The Draconi do not have families the way you do. We are raised communally. We belong to our clan, not to individual parents. That sounds lonely. Vera considered this. Perhaps it is. I never thought about it that way before. They got a room at the motel. It was small and shabby, with stained carpet and a bed that squeaked every time someone moved. But it was private, and right now privacy was what they needed. Danny sat on the edge of the bed while Vera paced the room. She seemed restless, like a caged animal. Her amber eyes kept flicking to the window, watching for threats. We need to understand what you did to me, she said finally. Your healing power. If we can understand it, maybe we can use it against the Ascendancy. I told you, I do not know how I did it. It just happened. Then try again. Vera held out her hand, palm up. I am not wounded now, but perhaps you can still channel whatever power you have. Perhaps you can learn to control it. Danny hesitated. He was afraid. Not of hurting Vera, but of discovering something about himself that he was not ready to face. But he knew she was right. If he had some kind of power, he needed to understand it. He took her hand at first. Nothing happened. Vera's silver fingers were cool against his rough palm. Danny closed his eyes and tried to remember what it had felt like at the crash site. That warmth in his veins. That sense of something flowing out of him. Slowly, very slowly, he felt it again. It started as a tingle in his chest. Then it grew, spreading through his arms, down to his hands, into his fingertips. He felt something leave him and enter Vera. Not painfully, not even unpleasantly. It felt natural, like breathing out. Vera gasped. Danny opened his eyes and saw that she was glowing. Her silver skin had become luminous, shining with a soft golden light. Her amber eyes blazed like twin suns. She looked more alive than she had since the crash. I can feel it, she breathed. It is not just healing energy. It is life itself, pure and raw and powerful. She looked at Danny with wonder. Danny, do you understand what this means? Not really. Vera released his hand. The glow faded slowly from her skin. Let me explain. The Draconi are dying because we have exhausted our life force. 10,000 years of using our powers, of expanding our empire, of burning bright across the stars. We gave too much and did not know how to replenish ourselves. We are like batteries that have been drained empty. Okay, I follow so far. But you are different. When you gave me your energy, I felt you replenish almost instantly. It was like a spring of water that never runs dry. You gave, and yet you never emptied. You never weakened. Danny looked at his hands. They looked the same as always. He did not feel any different. So humans have more life energy than Draconi? Not just more. A completely different kind. Vera sat down across from him, her eyes intense. Your species is young. You are evolutionary infants compared to us. Your civilization is barely 10,000 years old. You have not had time to exhaust yourselves the way we have. So we are just full of energy because we are new? More than that. I think your species evolved with an abundance of life force that no other species possesses. It is why you breed so quickly, why you feel emotions so strongly, why you take such risks, such chances, such leaps of faith. You have so much life in you that you cannot contain it all. It overflows. Danny tried to process this. His whole life, he'd been told that humans were ordinary. Not as strong as other animals. Not as fast. Not as tough. Fragile creatures who survive by their wits and their tools. But Vera was saying something different. She was saying that humans were special in a way that no one had ever imagined. If what you are saying is true, Danny said slowly, then other humans could do what I did. Give life energy to Draconi. Heal them. Yes. I believe so. And if enough humans helped enough Draconi, your people might not have to die. You could be renewed, restored. Vera nodded. Her expression was serious. That is exactly what I am thinking. Danny, your species could save mine. The Draconi do not have to fade into extinction. We could live. Danny sat back and let this sink in. It was an enormous idea. The fate of an entire alien species, resting on the shoulders of humanity. It sounded like something from a movie, not real life. There is a problem, Vera said. Her voice had become dark. The Ascendancy will never accept this. They have committed themselves to extinction. They believe it is the honorable choice, the dignified choice. If they learn that humans can save us, they will not be grateful. They will be furious. Why? Would they not want to survive? No. They would see it as weakness, as dependency on a lesser species, as betrayal of everything they believe. Vera's hands clenched into fists. And if they cannot have extinction for the Draconi, they will try to ensure extinction for humanity instead. They will destroy your world rather than let you prove them wrong. Danny felt cold. They would kill billions of people just to prove a point? The Ascendancy does not see your people as equal to us. They see you as animals, insects, creatures unworthy of consideration. Vera met his eyes. I do not share their views. I never have. But you must understand what we are dealing with. The Ascendancy is not just my enemy. They are the enemy of your entire planet. Then, we do not let them find out about me, about what humans can do. They already know something happened at the crash site. They already know you healed me. It is only a matter of time before they understand the full implications. Danny stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the small town baked in the afternoon sun. People went about their business, unaware of the cosmic drama unfolding in a shabby motel room. Unaware that their entire species might be in danger. Then, we do not wait for them to figure it out, Danny said. We take the fight to them first. Vera looked at him with surprise. How? You are one human. I am one exile. Against an empire that spans 1,000 stars. I do not know how. Not yet, but I know we cannot keep running. Running just delays the inevitable." Danny turned to face her. "You said the Draconi are dying because they gave up. You said they chose extinction instead of fighting for life. Well, I am choosing to fight. And I am asking you to fight with me." For a long moment, Vera was silent. She studied Danny with those burning amber eyes, searching for something in his face. Whatever she found, it seemed to satisfy her. "You are either very brave or very foolish," she said. "Probably both." Vera smiled. It was a real smile, warm and genuine. "Then I will fight with you, Danny Carter, for whatever that is worth." Danny smiled back. "It is worth a lot. Now let us figure out how to save two species at once." They had no army. They had no weapons. They had no plan. But they had something the Ascendancy did not expect: hope. And sometimes hope was enough. 3 weeks passed. Danny and Vera did not spend them hiding. They spent them building. Danny reached out to people he trusted. Old friends from his time in the army. Scientists who had investigated the crash site before the government sealed it off. Journalists who were willing to listen to an impossible story without laughing. Word spread quietly, carefully, through channels that the Ascendancy would not think to monitor. Vera sent signals of her own. Secret messages on frequencies that only Draconi could detect. She called out to others like her. Exiles who rejected the Ascendancy. Rebels who refused to accept extinction. Dreamers who still believed their people could survive. A handful answered. They came in secret, landing their ships in remote locations and traveling to meet Vera in person. They were old and tired, their powers faded, their hope almost gone. But when Vera told them about Danny, when she showed them what he could do, something changed in their eyes. They started to believe again. The group gathered in an abandoned warehouse in the desert. 50 humans and 12 Draconi, the strangest army ever assembled. They had no uniforms, no ranks, no chain of command. They were mechanics and teachers, doctors and farmers, soldiers and scientists. They were aliens who had lived for thousands of years and humans who had never imagined life beyond Earth. But they all had one thing in common. They had chosen to fight. Danny stood at the center of the group, feeling completely out of his depth. 3 weeks ago, he had been a nobody working the night shift at a salvage yard. Now he was somehow leading a resistance against an alien empire. It made no sense. But nothing in his life made sense anymore. "The Ascendancy is coming," Vera announced to the gathered group. "We intercepted their communications this morning. 12 warships are entering your solar system. They will arrive at Earth within hours." A murmur of fear passed through the crowd. 12 warships. Against 50 humans and a handful of exhausted Draconi exiles. The odds were impossible. "What do they want?" asked a woman named Grace. She was a former army medic who had served with Danny years ago. She had been the first person he called when this all started. "They want Danny," Vera said. "They want to study him, to understand how he healed me. And when they have learned what they need to learn, they will destroy this planet to make sure no other human can ever threaten their plans. Then we give them Danny," someone said. "Save billions to sacrifice one." "No." Grace stepped forward, her jaw set. "We do not sacrifice our own. That is not who we are. Besides, it would not matter," Vera added. "The Ascendancy already suspects that Danny's ability is not unique. They believe all humans share this power. Even if they take Danny, they will still destroy Earth. The only way to save your planet is to stop them." Silence fell over the warehouse. Everyone understood what Vera was saying. There was no escape. No negotiation. No surrender. They had to fight, or they had to die. Danny cleared his throat. Everyone turned to look at him. "I am not going to pretend I know what I am doing," he said. 3 weeks ago, I was fixing cars and watching the stars. I never asked for any of this. But here we are. And the way I see it, we have two choices. We can give up and wait for the end. Or we can stand up and fight for our lives. He looked around at the faces watching him. Human and Draconi alike. Young and old. Scared and determined. I choose to fight, Danny said. Not because I think we can win, but because giving up is not in my nature. It is not in our nature. Humans have been fighting against impossible odds since we first walked out of the caves. And we are still here. Still standing. Still refusing to quit. A Draconi elder named Sorith stepped forward. He was ancient, his silver skin faded to pale gray, his amber eyes dim. But when he spoke, his voice was strong. I have lived for 6,000 years, Sorith said. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched species fade into darkness. I thought my own people were destined for the same fate. But this human has shown me something I had forgotten. He looked at Danny with something like respect. Life does not give up. It fights, it struggles. It refuses to accept the end. That is what makes it precious. The other Draconi exiles nodded. The humans stood straighter. Something was shifting in the room. Fear was transforming into determination. The Ascendancy fleet arrived at sunset. 12 warships descended through Earth's atmosphere, blocking out the stars. They were massive and beautiful, their hulls gleaming with otherworldly light. They were also bristling with weapons that could level cities. Their leader, an ancient Draconi named Korath, broadcast a message that echoed across every radio frequency on the planet. Surrender the human called Danny Carter and the heretic Vera. Do this, and Earth will be spared. Refuse, and your species will join ours in oblivion. Danny picked up a radio and broadcast his own message. Come and get us. The battle began. The first wave of Ascendancy soldiers teleported down to the warehouse location. They were elite warriors, trained for thousands of years, equipped with weapons that humans could barely comprehend. They expected easy victory. They did not get it. Danny opened himself the way Vera had taught him. He did not just heal one person or give energy to one ally. He gave freely to everyone who stood with him. The energy poured out of him like light from the sun, touching every human and every Draconi in the fight. The effect was immediate. The Draconi exiles felt their ancient fatigue lift. Powers that had been dormant for centuries flared back to life. Plasma crackled around their hands. Their eyes blazed with renewed fire. The humans felt it too. A surge of strength and clarity. A sense that anything was possible. The Ascendancy warriors faltered. They had expected weak, exhausted exiles and primitive humans. Instead, they faced something new. Something they had never encountered before. A species that would not break. The battle raged for hours. The exiles fought with techniques they had not used in millennia. The humans fought with desperation and creativity, using improvised weapons and tactics that no military manual had ever taught. They took losses. Good people fell. But they did not retreat. Korath himself descended to face Vera. They had known each other once, before the Ascendancy consumed everything Vera believed in. You cannot win, Korath said. Plasma gathered around his ancient hands. Even if you defeat us here, the Empire will send more. You have only delayed the inevitable. Vera stood her ground. Golden fire danced around her fingers. Perhaps, but you forgot something, Korath. Something your philosophy of dignified extinction failed to account for. And what is that? Life wants to live. Vera smiled, and her smile was fierce. It does not matter how tired you are, how old, how ready to give up. When given the chance, life chooses to continue. Always. They clashed in a storm of plasma and fire. The desert sand turned to glass beneath their feet. The air itself seemed to burn out in the end. Vera stood victorious. Korath fell, his ancient body broken. His certainty shattered. The ascendancy forces retreated. Their warships pulled back from Earth's atmosphere and fled into the darkness between stars. They had come expecting easy victory. They left in defeat and confusion. When the dust settled, Danny was still standing. Barely. He had given more energy than he thought possible. His legs shook. His vision blurred. He felt empty in a way he had never felt before. Vera caught him before he could fall. "You gave too much, probably." Danny managed a weak smile. "Worth it, though." Around them, the survivors were picking themselves up. Human and Draconi alike. They looked at each other with new eyes. Not as aliens and primitives. Not as superiors and inferiors. But as allies. As partners. As something new. "What happens now?" Danny asked. Vera helped him to his feet. The sun was rising over the desert, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. It was beautiful. The most beautiful sunrise Danny had ever seen. "Now we rebuild," Vera said. "My people will need time to recover. Your people will need time to understand what they are. But together, we have a chance. A real chance." Danny leaned on her shoulder and watched the dawn break. Not bad for a mechanic. Not bad at all. Somewhere among the stars, the Ascendancy was regrouping. They would come again. The fight was not over. It might never be over, but that was okay. Because now, the Draconi were not alone. They had allies. They had hope. They had humans who refused to give up. The age of extinction was ending. The age of partnership was just beginning. And Danny Carter, the simple mechanic from a small salvage yard in Nevada, had helped light the way. He smiled at the sunrise. Whatever came next, he was ready. They all were.